You are listening to Thank Me for My Cervix, a podcast where we talk about all things mental health with a focus in the veteran and the military community. I'm your host, Shawna Marie, Marine Corps veteran, and today's discussion is the usual difficult one, so I'm going to give just a few trigger warnings before we get started today. So, we will be talking about relationship abuse, PTSD possibly, and alcohol use. If you or anyone you know is in an abusive relationship, just be there for them when they're ready to leave. And I also strongly encourage therapy. Please remember that an abusive relationship is not strictly physical. It can be mental and emotional as well. I'm also aware that anyone listening to this podcast may know myself or my guest, Shauna, so they also may know the situations or the people that we're discussing. So, just to be clear, any situation talked about here is for strictly informational purposes only. We were going to use fact-based as much as possible. A toxic relationship is a two-way street, and we are aware of this. So we're not here to talk shit. We're here to speak about our personal experiences and growth. So, without further ado, let me get my guest here on with us. Turn my little notes. Just give it a minute.
Long time no see.
I know.
Nice to see you.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to see your face.
Oh my god, it's been so long.
It's been forever. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to come out and talk with me.
Yes, of course.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about how we met.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a story.
It's crazy. And like the more I think about how I was then, I'm like, I was so stupid. So we're going to sum it up real quick, just a little bit. Long story short, I went on a date with a guy that we called Chubbies.
Yep.
On the way home from the date, I don't even know when, but shortly after, I get an Instagram request message from this girl named Shauna. And she's just like, I don't even know what you said. You tried to warn me, basically. Long story short, you were like, run. And I was like, okay, what? So naturally, I reached out to him instead, didn't take her warning, and that led to like the worst 3 years of my life.
Yes.
So.
Yes, I'm here.
Hindsight, like I would have just taken your, that's okay.
No,
that's
but you were like, I'm not going to judge a person before I get to know them. And like, respect, absolute respect. But like, same time, I was like, run.
I know. I know. It is like now I'm so much more skeptical. I'm just like, if a girl were to message me now being like, run from this dude, I'd be like, bah!
Dude, seriously, that was nuts. I like literally was just trying to make sure, like, okay, like girl's girl, be a girl's girl, like number one rule, but also not sound like a psychopath, which I kind of sounded like a psychopath, and I see how you thought that.
Yeah, but
you're like,
sometimes, like even sometimes the way I think or do things, I'm like, man, I'm a psychopath. But really, that's just like the best thing to do. And ultimately, whether I thought you were a psychopath or not, you're like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna tell this girl. And I took it the wrong way. And you know, that's a learning and growing experiences. I'm sure there's a lot in that relationship that we're still learning and growing from. You know, our relationship or our relationships with the Chubbies, we'll call him. Because we both experienced similar relationship problems, but separately.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that was like the learning curve for like all of us in that case, because it wasn't just us two. There was multiple people, but.
And now we're like a little army. I don't know. It turned into like John Tucker Must Die, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say it was.
Because it was not okay. Yeah.
Just a bad situation.
But gosh, as bad as that situation was for everybody, like this is not even saying a little army. little army of like John Tucker Must Die. What I will say is that situation, it was very obviously traumatizing for not just for me, for him as well, but it really molded me into who I am now. And I don't hold any grudges towards that situation. And it took a while to get me there because Lord knows I was so mad and I wanted to blame, you know, the male part in that. And although he did do some bad things, it wasn't completely his fault, because how many times did I know that I should have left?
Oh, same with me. Absolutely same with
Yeah,
me. Because it's like too toxic. It's not like if there's a toxic relationship, I don't think both people are toxic. I think it's more like you just aren't the person for each other. Like that was the whole thing to it.
yeah, like your personalities together makes
Oh,
it toxic, and that's what,
absolutely.
like, oh, like Shauna's toxic. Well,
Yeah.
no, because she's in a healthy relationship with someone else now, obviously.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, and I am too, or I have been since. And I feel like that just shows that it's not directed at a person, but it's so easy to blame a person,
Yeah.
because that's the only person I experienced that stuff with. So I'm like, hey, you're the problem, you're the issue. But really, it was just us
Oh,
together. The
it's that
relationship
combo.
that we had built made it. I mean, my first warning was getting a message from somebody that should have told me how the next 3 years of my life are gonna be. But I was just like, oh no, yeah, I don't even know.
I don't think we both knew. It was more like, oh, this is so good. This is great. And like you go to the good instead of like being like, okay, the bad things should make you run away. But
Like, the
like that
bad
was the
things
case where,
are really fucking bad.
but
Like,
you
the
keep
bad
going
things are
back. And that's the thing about toxic relationships where it's like you look at the good because you don't want to see the negative in people. And I think like that's always been my personal problem, but especially in that relationship, it was like, wow, he has good sides to him, so I'm just gonna focus on the good.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm sure he kind of did the same thing, because like I said, like, there's always two roads to that,
Mhm.
and I feel like it gets to a point where you're pushing so much, and it's not getting anywhere, and
Yeah.
that's when you know that is this situation, and I need to go. And getting out of that,
Rough.
it's
It
it is. I
was.
compare it to, I've seen it compared to like a
Oh,
drug, where you're getting like this high, and then when they're not around, or when you're not with them, it's not there, and then as soon as you're with them again, it sparks it up. So that's what brings it. It's like a drug almost.
oh, absolutely was because it's like I like after that ending of that, it felt like everything was empty. And it was like one of the hardest times in my life. And then like you moved me up to Havelock because I was stationed at
Oh, dude, your
SOI.
life was in shambles.
And it was like, holy moly. And then COVID, that didn't help either. So, but like the only thing that gets you through that is like you kind of have to go through the like the struggles and be in the like trenches for a little bit. And then it was like, okay, well, I met you because you hit me up February of 2020. And that's when we met up at Denny's that one
I
time.
should have met Ben. What was my problem?
Yeah,
I look
that was
back at that person, and I don't recognize
what.
her. And I've always said this, like, in different parts of my life, I've been different. Like, when I was with Dylan, I was this mom, and then I met Chubby's, and it was like I developed a drinking problem. I lost who I was completely. Granted, I learned so much, and I don't blame him
Yeah.
specifically. We just weren't right for each other. But fuck.
Amen. Oh, dude, I don't know what I was thinking in that period of time because I was just, yeah, I went off the deep end for a hot like year, I would say, when that was going on.
What would you say got you kind of out of it and back into like feeling like yourself? When do you feel like yourself now?
Oh, absolutely. I think it was that summer. So, because this happened in 2019,
Oh.
summer 2020, if you remember, it was hot girl summer. I was like,
It was, yeah.
no boy.
We were in Myrtle Beach
No,
together when COVID
we
started.
we were in Myrtle Beach when COVID started, and we're like, oh shoot, because I just PCS to my next or PCA'd up to Cherry Point, and I remember I checked in, and they're like, hey, like freaking come on Monday, and that's it. And then we ended up in Myrtle Beach because it was in the radius, and they're like, hey, can't go outside 85-mile radius, and I was like, oh well, I'm
We were
already in
gonna
Myrtle.
cancel the whole trip, and we were already driving down, and we're like, no, fuck this, we're going, because we'll call her M. M was supposed to go with
Yep.
us, but she was like, I'm not gonna get in trouble, fuck y'all. And we were just like, nah, we're
We're going
going.
to do this.
Girls trip, and we were literally like three. There's three of us because R
Yep.
went with us.
Yep.
R and M.
Yep.
Wow, I'm creative. Um, they went with us, and seriously, when we went out in Myrtle, there was like nobody out. It was a ghost town, but it was
Yeah,
St. Patrick's Day.
yeah, because it was St. Patty's Day, and then like we were just like full send, and all the college kids, of course, down in Myrtle Beach were just like, let's go. So we just partied all weekend.
That was so funny. Well,
Yeah.
we're
Oh,
wild, yo.
oh my gosh. And that started the whole summer where it was like, girls, I'm hanging with the girls. I want nothing to do with men. I deleted like
Hell
Tinder,
yeah.
all that stuff. Deleted all those dating apps because I was like, I was trying to rebound for a hot minute. It took me a bit because I wanted to rebound and find a good man. And then I was like, fuck that.
No,
I was
no.
like, I'm not doing it.
No.
No. So,
When you're desperately looking for a good man, and I've learned this, I'm never looking. Like I had
yeah.
never. I've learned that I just
Oh,
don't look. But if
absolutely.
when you're actively looking is when you can't find them, and that probably I'm sure goes the same for guys, the girls. Like you're a good guy, and you're like, I'm ready. I want to settle down, and then you're just like going after these hot girls that are just like just got fucked over in a bad
Yep.
relationship, and now it's like a vicious cycle.
Absolutely. And that was the case with it, where I was just like, well, no way, I'll just hang out with the girls. So I ended up hanging out with you. And then I was hanging out with also freaking homegirl, also from
Yeah,
unit. Freaking, I was watching her dogs that whole summer.
yeah,
And my command was pretty much just like, yo, like, go telework. But you don't know your job right now because I was out of my job for like 2 years. And so I just was dog sitting, paddleboarding, hanging out with the girls. And that's pretty much like what got me sanity was like, I don't need a man. I just need my
yeah.
girls.
And then when you're like that, when you're in that mindset where you don't really need anybody, you're kind of just doing your thing. That's when you find somebody, and a lot of people don't realize that. And a lot of people, like they were like, "Oh, I am like that." Like they'll get like defensive, like that's how I feel. But then like you'll have discussions with them, and you're like, "No, like you need to do a little more inside working because
Oh, yeah.
you're like I can feel what you're sensing."
Yeah.
So
And the whole thing too was too like COVID closed down all therapy. So I was getting therapy and then like COVID and PCA and up to Cherry Point, no treatment for any mental health. So pretty much that was my sanity too. So yeah.
I didn't even think about that because I really wasn't involved much in the mental health aspect then. Getting out of that relationship kind of what shoved me into it.
Yep.
But I didn't even think about how the mental health for especially veterans in the military community probably was almost non-existent.
And
Yeah.
and it's still like you still feel the impact from the state getting like any mental health. It's like the VA took me 8 months to get seen.
Yeah. I I I just had to. Don't get me started on my VA experience right now, okay?
Yeah.
No, I moved from Jacksonville up to Moorhead, and I was like waiting for my VA appointments, and they kept getting pushed, and I was like, okay, what's going on? So I called them, and they're like, oh yeah, you actually don't have a doctor here anymore. Your doctor that was here just does not work here anymore.
Like surprise.
Oh, what? When did you think you should have told like? So I
Like,
finally got an appointment. I tried to call back in like the beginning of December to get an appointment because I need help.
Yep.
Physically and mentally. You know, I like to stay on top. But they couldn't get me in until January 18th. So I still haven't even gone. And that's the Moorhead one. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, and that was the case with mental health with the VA. I started like my initial like, okay, let's just get checked out by the VA being out of the Marine Corps now. And it was like March. And I didn't actually get an appointment until December. My first appointment was to just see my doctor and do like the intake and everything. And I was like, that's how veterans get treated in the mental health community. It takes forever. So I'm like, well, you see these things happening where veterans take their lives or active duty. I'm like, well, there's a major problem with mental health. So
And who's helping? Like we put in these requests for help. Like that's obviously why I started doing this. And I do see that there's a lot more veterans doing that, and I'm hoping that we just can keep growing, and that the number of people who are so against it will be higher than the number of people that are hurting themselves as a repercussion of not getting the help. I think it'd be great for the VA to employ more veterans.
yeah, exactly. And I think like it doesn't help because even on the civilian sector, it's like there's a shortage with psychologists and psychiatrists and everything. And it's just like, it's a major problem, not alone in the veteran community, but like everywhere in America.
Yeah,
So, and I'm like,
exactly.
we need to like find a way to get better with it because it's just like, yeah, like here's your resources, but then like they keep you so busy. Like in the military, especially, like you see it too often where you see somebody who took their life and it's like, well, maybe if you focused on the care of the Marine, this wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I feel like you have to jump through so many hoops to get help, and that alone is discouraging to people who are just like, I'm already stressed out. I'm barely making it. I feel anxious every day because of my past experiences, and I'm just trying to live. Now, in order to get help, I have to do this and I have to do that. And it's just like, why? Why would I choose to do that instead when I can, when, God forbid, ever, and, I'm saying, like, scary people hurt themselves instead of getting the help that they need.
Oh, absolutely. And I was like, and that's what took me down that road. Like when we were in that path, when I was still at that unit and I was dating chubbies, it was like I led to that point where I ended up in intake because I was like, I couldn't stop what I was doing. So I just kept going and going and going. And then it led me into the intake.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
I'm sure if I was active duty while him and I were together, it would have been so
Yeah.
bad. I mean, it was bad for his career, unfortunately,
Yeah.
because whatever. That's not what we're talking about. But I do feel like getting help is a good way to start recovering from different things like
Oh,
that.
yeah. And like that was the whole case.
I feel like talking about it is really important because I feel like there's a stigma that us as I don't know if you feel this, so you can confirm it or not, that I can't talk about things that either happened to me. Like I can't talk about my military experience. I can't talk about my law enforcement experience. I can't talk about my sexual experiences because there's this stigma that's like I'm not allowed to. I don't know. I can't explain it, but
It's
I
like you
feel
kind of hide it. It's not so much like you can't like talk about it. It's more like in the atmosphere and like, especially in the Marine Corps, like the atmosphere is like, you can't discuss those things because you'll look like you're weak. That's at least how I felt, where it was like, especially in that unit, it was pretty much all male dominated. There was probably 5%
Oh
females.
yeah, your experience and mine was even different in that aspect because I experienced the male female ratios, but yours was even worse because
Yeah.
tell a little bit about what was your MOS. I'm sorry, we didn't talk
So
about
I
that.
was supply originally, and then I re-enlisted, and I was supposed to go over to like Intel Battalion over in Lejeune, and then I looked to check my leave. It's always this case. I looked to check my leave. I had modified orders, and it was to go to SOI as a combat instructor. And I'm like, am I doing supply or what's going on? And ended up going to SOI to do combat instructor. And
That's
like it was nuts. Like walking into that course, you have probably about 75% of the guys that are going through the schoolhouse for McKick. It was pretty much all infantry dudes. Then you got these random MOSs, like probably for the rest of it. And then maybe like three girls in the class. And there was a class of 40. We only graduated with 19
damn.
for combat instructor school. And it was like, oh my goodness, like, what is this? Then you get to the units, like, or the companies, it was pretty much just like, okay, like, figure out how to deal with all this. Like, this isn't your MOS originally, but like, now you're in the freaking, in the crap with everybody else. So, yeah, it was nuts. And then on top of everything that was going on in my personal life with that whole case, oh, it was rough.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
I think like I had it rough too, but I'm such an empathist that I can feel like I can't imagine.
Oh yeah. And like the whole thing with it was like I wanted to be there more than anything, but then like the command looked at that whole situation and my personal like stuff going on is that they're like, "Oh, well she can't do her job." No, I would personally escape the situation and go to work. And it was one of those things. I'm a workaholic. When I want to work and I want to distract myself, my problem is I distract myself by working. And that was the case and the command was like, "No, you can't be here. We're going to give you orders out of here." So it was just a crap situation, that whole thing. Because I was like, I want to be here. I'm a workaholic. I want to do my job. But somebody controlled, like the command controlled of what I was going to do next. And I hated it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when did you decide that you were going to EAS, and how was that transitioning?
So I pretty much that I had a 6105 from there. And like that 6105, yeah, I got selected for staff sergeant. That was awesome. But like I knew talking to one of my really good friends, she's a career planner. She was like, this is always gonna follow you. This one piece of paper from an incident that happened with Chubby's. And so I didn't want to keep explaining that. Like, that's something I don't want to relive. And I was already moving forward, doing great. But that 160, was going to pretty much be the reason why I have to fight for my career every single time. Even though they say paper doesn't matter, it does
It
matter.
does.
So it was like I had orders with my husband now. God sent. Love him. So like pretty much like he had orders also to Pendleton. I got orders to Pendleton. And the monitor came back and was like, yeah, you're gonna have to re-enlist, but you're gonna have to fight that 6105 off your records. And I was like, well, I'm not doing this. And my husband was actually deployed to Lithuania at the time. So I was like, I called him and I said, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And it was like for my mental well being, on top of the weight standards are horrible in the Marine Corps. So I was doing well with that, but like with all my PFTs and CFTs, I was like, the weight standards and then this piece of paper and the traumatizing things that happen, I was like, I'm not doing this. And so decided to get out. And honestly, best decision ever. Best decision. I see why everyone does it, but so I was like, I'll just go to school and be a wife and all that stuff. And like everything worked out, like honestly. And like my husband was number one supporter. He was like, do what makes you happy. And in this case, I was like, the weight standards ain't it. Not fighting for like piece of paper to stay in the Marine Corps. I was like, that's pretty much why I got out. So
That's a great answer though, and I can tell that you're so much happier from when we first met.
oh yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm like a completely different person. I'm like, it's
Happy.
crazy, and I can tell
Like,
that you are too. You seem so happy and
yeah,
so great.
when
So,
you
what
like
what
comes
are you going
up.
to school for?
I'm going to school for finance.
Oh, nice.
I was like, I like the money. I learned I hate supply, but I still do supply. I love my job. It's just I want to learn the financial side of it and like go deeper into it. I was like accounting, like that's kind of your baseline, but I want to do something a little bit more difficult. So finance was the decision. So
Hell yeah. So, what are you hoping to do after you graduate?
work for the government.
Nice.
It's like honestly, I like the government jobs. They're fun. My big thing is like I found like especially I'm doing like contracting now and I still work with the Marine Corps all the time. And I love it. I still get to talk to Marines, still help with everything, but I'm like, I want to still be a part of that. That's
I
the big part.
I'm not gonna lie, I that's probably the only thing that I miss.
Yeah.
And like going back when I went to reunion for my old squadron and all the female Marines got together and like hung out. I talk about it all the time. It's still my favorite. Like to this day, I'm just like that was so much fun. Like we should do that all the time.
Dude, it's something about just being with like other Marines. Like as soon as you can reconnect with them, it's like, oh man, like nothing's
Yeah.
changed. It's not like going back home to like your civilian towns and like you try to connect with people. It's not the same thing, you know? Like you still love those people back at
Oh
home,
yeah.
like where you come from, but it's like that instant connection when you meet another Marine, it's like we're gonna be friends.
Absolutely. I know what you mean.
So
And it's good to I'm jealous that you get to still have that.
yeah,
Because
it's
when I got out, I was missing that. And that's when I thought that maybe law enforcement would give me that.
no,
It's not the same.
yeah, it's definitely not.
Within the Marines in law enforcement, like other Marines in law enforcement, it was there.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it was like just regular people. They just didn't get me, I guess.
And that's the whole part. Like, I just got back from my trip. We met some like dude who was also in the military. And it was like, as soon as you bond with somebody, it's not even the Marine Corps, it's just military in general. You just bond instantly. And this dude, we met him in a pub in the middle of London. And I was like, we ended up drinking with him for 4 hours and then wandering downtown London, like right on the waterfront. And I was like, and this is why military connects instantly because we know the struggles and we understand the BS. That's the whole thing to it.
You instantly have something to relate over.
Yeah.
And it's trauma based. So you're like, yes.
Dude, straight up, it's like you talk about your struggles and then you somehow get into like crazy stories. You're like, if this was the real world, like just the civilian sector, this wouldn't be okay. But then you guys laugh about like we laugh about things that are like, that's wild. Like, what do
Like
you mean that's funny
that's
to
kind
you?
of fucked up, yo. Like that's not
And
normal.
that was the whole thing too, where it's like you just laugh about these things and like they think you're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, we are a little bit crazy, but we
You
understand the
gotta be.
crazy.
For every bad thing that has happened to me, my life in general, and I'm not saying the military was all bad by any means.
Yeah.
Anything, whether it was my childhood growing up, I'm to an extent grateful for because it really did mold me into someone that I'm proud to be and someone
Yeah.
that I have a lot of goals and I'm very selfless and I think it's because of those things that have happened to me in the past. And so I have to be somewhat grateful for them because I don't know what kind of person I'd be
Oh,
without them.
absolutely. And like that's the whole thing. Like you got to learn from those things that happen in your life to be stronger and like to build a foundation is what I like to think. Where it's like, yeah, those crappy things happen, but it's like, how do you move forward from that? How do you become a
Yeah.
better person?
Like,
So,
how do I not allow this to happen again? And then you just keep kind of building, like, I won't allow this, and I won't allow this, and I won't allow this. And then eventually you're just up the top and you're like, you know what? I am
yeah.
happy. And I'm not going to allow anything that
And
doesn't reach the level of
yeah,
happiness.
and like I feel like with all these experiences that we have, like it's pretty much that we like now if something bad or something we don't like, we just say our minds.
Oh,
Like if we don't like
yeah.
something, oh man, when I first met you, I would let people just walk all over me. And that's exactly what happened in that situation. I let people walk all over me. And then now it's just like, oh, you don't like me. Cool thing. I don't really
Yeah.
care.
Good luck. I really have never not given a shit the way that I do
Yeah.
now. Like, I can, and it's a blessing and a curse, I will say, because I obviously still care genuinely about people. I'm still love wholeheartedly. Unfortunately, I dive all in on relationships,
Yep.
but I take goodbyes less personal
Oh yeah.
because I'm like, well, if you don't want to be here, I'm happy without you here.
Oh,
So then you
absolutely.
can go. And I don't feel like I had that in that relationship.
Same. I was like, I felt like the world, this sounds crazy. Like, I guess I was young and dumb,
Yeah.
but I was like, the world is over. Like, this person doesn't love me. They don't care about me. They could throw me to the curb. And I thought it was the end of the world. Now it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't care about me, that's your loss. Deuces. I'm gonna stick with the people that do care. Yeah.
How did that happen?
No, I was celebrating that moment. It's like
How did that happen? Seriously, there's like confetti all over me.
it just knew the moment. Oh my God. I don't know what that was. I pressed nothing. My hands are
I'm
over
like
here.
away from the screen. That was perfect though.
That was perfect
Thanks,
timing.
Instagram, for,
It
for the
knew. It
background.
just knew. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's wild.
I'm so glad that we took the time to do this because even doing this is like refreshing for my soul. It's just like it's like another part of like closing that chapter of my life where I'm like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And especially because, like, with you, like, we had a really good friendship. Like, that's the whole thing about it, where it was like, man, to go from a really bad situation to get something so good, it was like, thank baby
I
Jesus.
know. What I will say is you were like my rock through all of the hard times because when him and I were off, I knew no matter what I could call you and you would be there, and you were every single time. And you were equally you had feelings for him
Oh,
still too, and you would
absolutely.
still you would still come and talk to me about it and let me be there. And then I was just a moron and I go back, but every time you would be there for me.
Even in the back of the car when I was sleeping that one time. Oh, I forgot about that. That just popped in my head.
Yo, we are crazy bitches, and I'm here for it. Like
And I was wide awake that whole time. I remember we get down to Wilmington and you picked him up, and I was like, but I was wide awake. I was like, oh my God, this is insane.
we're crazy. We're crazy. That's fine.
Yes. Yes. You know, yeah.
Guys won't admit it, but they like a little crazy.
Oh, Absolutely. Why would they stay? That's the fun of it.
Yeah.
I was like, it's okay. You gotta have a little bit of crazy to keep it entertaining.
I live by that statement. Like I'm just like, you should be grateful
Yeah.
for this craziness, because then like how boring would your life be without me in it, really?
I was like, yeah, you gotta keep it a little bit of spicy. It's like putting in a little bit of spice, like Salt Bae.
Will I show up and slash your tires? No one knows. Woo.
Keep it mysterious. Oh, God bless my husband.
I know.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, that was hot girl summer. And it was like, I wasn't planning on getting married, wasn't planning on dating. And then I met this guy while I was on a date with another guy.
Holy shit. That is so funny.
It was great. And then like we ended up being like, okay, like let's just have a fun summer where we just party all summer. So we had another guy that we used to go party with, and we just get off work, get a like pack of claws, go sit in the smoke pit and just drink claws and bullshit. So it was great. And then
Love that.
I was helping him with his Tinder, but I was actually ideally fixing his Tinder so I could go back on Tinder and match with him, and then I could pretty much sweep him off his feet.
It worked.
It worked. We're married almost 3 years now, dude.
Has
This
it been
August. This August is 3 years. Yeah.
That's
We're in that weird COVID time frame where time just went away somewhere. I don't know, but 3 years, dude. Nuts.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super happy for you. And thank you again for taking the time to come and talk with me about that. I think this was a great episode. I think we talked about some really important stuff. So,
Dude, for real. And then I'll come visit you next time in North Carolina.
you
So
should. You really should. Was
I'll
there
come in
anything
the
else that you
summer.
wanted to add before we get off of here?
Dude, stay with your girls. When you have troubles, stay with the girls. That's my life advice.
I really agree. It's so
Yeah.
hard though, because finding a good group of girls
Yeah.
is like, I feel like all of my good groups, I have like one in each state. I just,
At least you could go to different places.
I know. My dream is to throw like a huge party one day and have like all of my friends from all over in one place.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I know. It's so hard. Why is it so hard?
Go to Arizona or Florida. Recommend 10 out of 10 for a girls trip.
Oh yeah, Florida. I'm going to Florida all the time.
I know.
Florida.
Oh, I'm jealous. I see it all the time.
Wait, where are you at
I'm in
now?
Arizona now.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. So
Dude, I love Arizona.
I'm in
I say that all the time. I feel like I say the same things on my podcast over and over
Oh my
again.
gosh. Yeah, I'm in Yuma. So Yuma's not that great. It's a lot of old people.
Is your husband still in?
Yeah, he's actually getting promoted like next month. I was like, promotion.
Was he getting promoted to?
Gunny.
Hell yeah. Congrats, dude. That's exciting.
Thanks. He's pumped. He's a lifer. I will. Yeah, he's a lifer for sure. So we're in the Marine Corps lifestyle for a long time.
And at least you enjoy certain aspects of that, and you get to kind of still work in that environment and but be a civilian. So you're just like whatever.
I just was like, I just want to go make Marines days. That's all I want to do. I want to help them out because I know the struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I wish I could be more involved. Like if I could ever work at the VA for certain things, I totally would.
Oh yeah, dude, I could totally see you doing like mental health or something, helping veterans.
Hell
And
yeah.
you'd be like, I understand, homie. I got
Like
you.
I wanted to be like a therapist, but I will not go back to school.
Oh, that's like,
I have gone to school for so much of my life. Like whatever is meant for me will find me. I'm not learning anymore. I refuse.
trust me, I'm right there with you. 4 years, I'm gonna be done. I hate school.
If I feel like a lot of schooling and training should be more of like hands-on learning, where like you're thrown into the atmosphere almost instantly, and you have to be like in law enforcement, after learning like the basics, they put you out there, which is a great model. But I feel like if we're gonna force it for a while, like law enforcement shouldn't be one of those things. It should be something that you're taking forever to learn how to do. But whatever.
Oh yeah.
So you go through the FTO portion of the program, and that's just where you're following another cop around for a while, and that's where you do majority of your learning, honestly. And once you graduate that portions when you're able to be a cop on your own. And I feel like that's like every job should be to an extent like that.
Oh yeah, because hands-on is the only way you're going to learn. It's like same with the military. It's like they tell you when you go through your schoolhouses, oh yeah, you might learn some of this, but like just remember when you get to the fleet, you're not going to use any of this material you just used.
I've heard that so many times in my Marine Corps career. So many times. Like, we're teaching you this, but you won't need it. I already don't have much space up there, homie. Like, you're taking too much.
I'm like, why would you teach me this? Like, you teach me, like, yeah, the pubs, here's the pubs, but you teach me stuff that's not going to be anything useful of what I'm going to actually do until I get there.
Honestly, in school, I learned nothing. Nothing.
Wasn't
I learned a little bit about schematics. That's about it. The pub has everything that you need to know.
Yeah, pretty much.
So why not just throw them to the fleet? That's how I feel. Because then on top of learning it all in the book, it was just too much learning for me. Maybe it's some like my brain works faster than others, I guess. But I felt like I went through too much schooling, and I really didn't grasp any learning until I was hands-on.
Oh, same. Absolute same. I was like, throw me in the mess and like I'll just have to learn how to swim. That's how I learned best. I was like, you're either gonna drown or you're gonna swim. It's one of the two. So, and I was like, it was just not the same. I don't understand it. So, yeah.
I
I,
enjoyed when I was in. I worked on helicopters.
yeah.
And that's why like I learned. Excuse me. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy being a Marine and working on helicopters.
Yeah.
Just like if being just a Marine was my job, cool, or being like just a helicopter mechanic, but like combined.
You're like, no.
Why didn't I do the Air Force? I have no idea.
No,
but, hey.
I think the same. So,
but hey, I'm a badass because I got the Marine.
I got the title. I got the EGA. It was great. I earned the title. That's all that mattered. Yeah, I didn't realize there was more. I think I was like one of those people where it was like, oh yeah, like get the title and that's it. And then like they go, you got school now. And I was like, oh, what?
I have to work?
I thought I was just gonna shoot guns all day. I actually think I was thinking that when I was 19 when I joined. I was like, oh, there's more to it.
I don't even know what I was thinking. I don't know how I got to that point. It was like, it's like a blur. I don't know. Like, I've talked to my therapist about it a little bit. It is trauma based from like growing up and stuff, where I can disassociate with parts of my life. Like, I just choose to like not remember it and bye. And that whole time frame, like my senior year in high school, right after graduating, I can't even tell you what I was thinking. I don't know. I just walked into the recruiter's office. I think I was like looking for the Coast Guard, and I was like, I want my college paid for, homies. Which way up? And the Marines, you know, because the Marine Corps recruiters are definitely the most aggressive.
But like keep it on the same level as what your mind's thinking. They like get to your level and they're like, hey, come on up here, we got you.
Now,
they're like, okay, I'm snatched up now.
It's like secretly aggressive. You don't realize it's aggressive until you're graduated from boot camp and you're like, wait a minute.
You're like, what just happened?
What am I doing here?
It's like a fog. Like you think back to those moments, like, and that's what I'm actually going to counseling. I was like, does things feel like a fog to everybody else? And they're like, you just like disconnect from everything. And I'm like, I understand what you're saying with that, where it's like, is this real? Like, did this just happen? Like, it feels like if you look back, you're like, no, this ain't real life.
It doesn't feel real. I feel the same exact way. I do. And I constantly have to try to remind myself now to like remember those moments. Like sometimes I'll be like holding my kids and I'll be like, okay, just like, I don't know, just like breathe it in, like smell them, take a second, like this is awesome. And I feel like I didn't do that growing up, or I don't remember doing it. And I'm like afraid that these moments now I'm gonna forget because I've forgotten so much of my life.
Yeah. No, and I think it's like just one of those things where your mind goes like time on top of your like mindset and like being like, is this real? Like, am I in the moment? Like, it's hard to put yourself in the moment until you look back and you're like, oh, that already passed by. And like, that's a lot of things like where my therapist is like, yeah, you just gotta like sit there, have a thought about it, feel the emotion, and then go to the next. And I'm like, this is so hard.
It's kind of mentally exhausting.
Oh,
like it's
absolutely.
you have to put so much energy into something that you feel like you should be doing naturally,
Yeah.
and
You
you have to
wait.
consciously be like, remember this, and then you try to recollect it, and it's like mentally draining.
Oh, absolutely. And that's how I feel, where it's just like, wow, like this is harder than it is to practice. So like,
Yeah,
and that's the main thing I'm focusing on, because I think my big thing is I used to be in the moment, especially when I was hanging out with y'all, like that whole summer. And then like when I got out, it was like as soon as I got out, that's when I started being like, is this real? Like, is this like actually happening? Or like what's next? And just feeling like you're going with the grooves of every day. So
yeah,
yeah.
like you're waiting to wake up from a
Yeah.
dream.
Pretty much, yeah. That
I feel that. And like the reality was me being in the military, and then when you get out, it's like you wake up from a dream,
mhm.
and now you have to kind of like live, and you're like, am I ever gonna go back to sleep? Was that a dream? Is this a dream? And then it's just like a emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. And I think it's because we just disconnect, like that connection that you had to the military and that crazy, like 100% going 100 miles per hour every single day, it just stops immediately. And like, it's like you went on the roller coaster, now you're standing there like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. 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 I kind of feel like it was like you're at an amusement park too, where you're taking like you're waiting in line for a roller coaster, then you're on this roller coaster, you get that thrill and excitement, your adrenaline's getting pumped because you're getting yelled at, or you have drill, or you have to get a uniform ready, you're doing all this military related stuff, and you're getting that adrenaline pump all the time. And then, you're constantly riding all these different roller coasters, and then like the park shuts down. And
Yeah.
now you're kind of still in this park because it's where you belong. That's where you feel like you belong, but nothing's running anymore. But the anxiety is kind of still building up in you. You still want that. You still kind of crave that to an extent because it's kind of formed you into what you believe is normal. When
Yeah. But it's
when
not.
it's not.
It's not normal whatsoever. Like, I just got back from that trip, and that was the same case where I was like, I got that little thrill, and it was like that slight excitement, but nothing compares to the military. Like the military, that excitement of like, because you think of every event, like you have those moments where nothing's going on. So that's like you slowly going up the roller coaster. And then like when you drop, that's when like, you're like on deployment. What was that? That was weird. I was like, what is these things? Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's a roller coaster ride. And then now I'm just off. So that's what I'm trying to figure out next with life. And thank God for therapy. Therapy,
Yeah,
great.
I was going to touch on a little bit what you said because like you just got back from a
Yeah,
trip, which was
yeah.
it looked so great. It looked
Oh,
so great.
so fun. Like,
And
I
that
love Ireland
you
most.
learn to use events and things like that to kind of fill in those voids that you maybe are
Yeah.
missing from the military, from the constant like adrenaline rush. Doing fun little trips or doing things that you enjoy doing can kind of bring that back into your life.
Oh, yeah. Give you the endorphins that you need. Because, like, I'll tell you, Yuma don't do the endorphins. I'll tell you that for sure. We're in the middle of a desert. So it was like to get that little like excitement and something exciting in the life to like bring me back to real life. It's like, okay, we got to do this every so often. So like that's my coping mechanism. So if you see me disappear, that's probably like me being like, oh, I need a recharge.
I know. I'm so bad about disappearing. Because I do try to stay active on like social media platforms, to kind of like build a following so I can get my voice out, my voice heard more. But it's kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
And then I realized like I have not posted in a week. Like I have not said anything in a week, and I'm just like they might think I've died if I don't say something. So
No, yeah, I watch your page to make sure you're good. I'm like, oh, she good. But like, same thing is like with me. I was like, I kind of disappeared for like the last year. I didn't post much. I didn't like say much because it was like so many changes. Like getting out of the military, moving across the country, and like starting in a place where I barely knew anybody. I thankfully knew like one person here, and then
no,
I got into a little friend group, and I joined kickball, spouses kickball.
that sounds like so much fun. I wonder if they'll let me do it, even though I'm not a spouse
Be like,
anymore.
let me go. I was like, yeah, it's wild. Absolutely wild. So it's like you have to find your footing. So I kind of just disappeared for like a good year. So I was like, that's the best thing to do. I was like, mentally, I was like, I have my husband. And then my husband, He's gone usually like 6 months out of the year or more. This year it was 8 months. And I was like, it wasn't even deployments, it was just exercises. So it's like how to find where you belong, how to find like what keeps you sane. Like that was the big thing about that. So
Relationships in the military are already so tough.
yeah.
It's because I was married and we did a lot of deployments together. And you have to like adjust. They're back. They're gone. They're back. They're gone. I'm alone. I'm not alone. And it's that alone is its own emotional roller
Oh,
coaster.
absolutely is. Because then you
Because
have to figure out how to like get reconnected too. Like when they're gone, you get onto a schedule and it's like, okay, like how do I get reconnected with my person when they come back? And like that's the whole thing. And thankfully it's pretty easy for us, but it's not easy to say the least. And you understand that. Hi, Kimball.
her husband is
I say amen to that. That's our groomsman from our wedding. He was the best man. Best man. If you ever need someone to hire, that's the man to hire. We didn't hire him. He's our best friend though.
That's so cute. That's so funny.
Oh, I know my place. He comes number one in my husband's life, so
I love that. That's such a but like it's good when you're good friends or at least joke with their friends.
yep.
A good sign of a good relationship.
Amen.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else that you wanted to add, I want to say thank you again.
Of course.
And we should plan a girls trip. And I need to see your face. So
I'll
thank
cut out
you
there.
so much.
Absolutely, girl. I love you. Always
I love
remember.
you. Bye.
Bye.